Alrighty, so in the last video we went ahead and covered the first focal plane and second focal plane scopes, what they do, the differences between them, all of the different settings that you have that you can tinker with between them, as well as the materials and how to adjust them, what they do, how it affects the eye box, and all that fun stuff. Now as you can see, we're on the nighttime map, so that is probably a pretty strong indication that we are getting into night vision and thermals. So some really fun stuff. Alright, so to start with, let's just, we'll do some work and we'll set it up to work with the normal, well, yeah, we'll do magnifiers. Because there is one thing I want to show you with the thermal magnifier that, depending on who you are, might be a slight issue. Alright, so I have my, this is going to be for the magnifier itself, so I'm going to add the flip mount to it. Then I want to add another part component, and this one's going to be for the actual reflex sight as well. Let me position that right on up. Let's get it in place. I want to select this guy, copy him, and paste the location and rotation. And like so, and just slide it forwards. Alright, so this one's going to be by default. That's going to be the reflex sight, and I'll give it a default part. And I need to raise it up so it's somewhat in line with the magnifier itself. Let's see, we should have the brightness. I'm going to get rid of the reticle differences. So like we'll do 0.5 as the start and then work our way down. Alright, so that's for the flip mount. That should have all the parts I need on it. So let's check. Let's click on the flip mount. Let's go to the part component. So first one's going to be thermal, then night vision, then the normal magnifier. So we're going to start from the bottom and go up. So let me run into the light here. As you can see, actually you can just barely see the reticle. So I'm going to bump that down a little bit farther. Let's try 0.45. And that should be just kind of out of view. You can barely see it. So 0.4. And I can no longer really see it. I can just ever so slightly see it. All right, so let's go ahead and add the flip mount and starting from the bottom. So we have the normal magnifier. As you can guess, that is what it says it is. So you flip it, you get magnification. Duh. Second one, it's going to be night vision. This one, as you can see, it is excessively bright where the reticle is, so that's where we have reticle brightness. So I can lower that. Now you can see it's just a little dot. It is no longer a giant blur like it was at the normal brightness. But we're able to go through and actually still see pretty well. All like so. So we can go through, we can really just, well, it works like night vision does, obviously. So when you're night vision, when you go through and you're looking at everything normal, that's fine. You get into some light. It's a little bit too bright, so that's when you get to the point where you probably want to flip it over, crank your brightness back up, and use your normal reticle. And when you're back down, you flip it, lower your brightness back down, and keep going. That's kind of the basics for night vision. Now, I've also started working on some simple infrared stuff. So here's the IR. So if I go look through it and I press B to turn on the laser, you can see there's the laser. And then I can turn on the flashlight. And it kind of helps illuminate any area that's going to be excessively dark. Now, if I unaim, as you can see, the laser is no longer really visible. So it's the same kind of deal with the magnifier. If I get to right here, you can kind of see the laser as it shines in the light with the dark background a bit. So you can see it right there, but you can't really see the flashlight itself. So it just needs a little bit of adjusting. I need to tune it down a tiny bit so you can't really see it, and then it'll be good to go. But that works all the same. I really out of ammo already. And you can kind of just keep going. So, as you can see, there's the brightness. So we come up to the bright area. you'd want to flip the magnifier off and just go through and handle it like normal. Next up, we have the thermals. So here's the issue with the thermals currently. With thermals, obviously you can normally not see through glass, but I'm looking right through my glass reticle right now, and if I turn up the brightness a bit, you can see the reticle even. So once I get more comfortable with shaders, I'll have to go through and try to figure out some sort of system to where the post-process of this makes it look opaque, but for the time being, this is going to be kind of the best result I'm going to be able to get. So now as you can see, this is kind of the digital thermal effect. So we have a lower frame rate. So as you can see, it does lag a bit. And as you go through, you can see the target right there. And then you can see what objects actually have heat. So like this mannequin right here, this guy, he has some heat to him. Come over here, you can see, you can easily tell where a person is based upon their heat signature. Like this guy right here, you can barely see the target stand unless you look right here. You can't see the target at all, but if I had the heat applied, you would be able to see it nice and clearly. So that's just how you go through and run through the course. You can go through the lights. It's all going to be the exact same. The light does not really affect it. The only thing that affects it is going to be the actual heat signature. So now that we have those kind of out of the way, let's go ahead and look at the thermal scopes as well. So those are handled a little bit differently. So I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So I can just get rid of that guy. I'll slide you forwards, use the scope mount. And let's go to it. Actually, I wanted to save you. Do the scope mount and the parts. So we have thermal rainbow, and there we go. So then we have the normal. So thermals first. Well, normal thermals first. So let's go ahead and add the mount. Then we'll add the normal thermal. So that's basically what you just saw. So we look through it. We have the normal scope. We can zoom in, all that kind of stuff in the same fashion. Currently it's at 1 power, and the heat signature works all the same. Now you do have the option to make this first or second focal plane, just like you would with the normal scopes, which you would change here. So his first focal plane, you would set that. If it's not, you would, well, obviously not set that. Then we have the fun color. So we can add the mount, and we can add the rainbow night vision. So this is where you could see the difference in hue. Let me slide the optic a little bit closer. It's kind of far away for the scope shadow, or the eye box. There we go. As you can see, this is the result of that. So you can see the difference between things a good bit better in my opinion. So you can go through and handle it all kind of in the similar fashion. Still got somewhat of an outline of non-heated objects, but it's just a little bit easier to see. But then obviously you can tell the hot objects are very easy to see. So that's how all that kind of goes through and works. So let's look into, I guess, kind of how you would change these and set these up. So let's look at we'll look at the normal thermal scope first. So with this guy, if we click on the scope itself, we have the first element, which is going to be the material instance for the, well, basically the glass that you're seeing. So we can head over to that one, and all this is it's your normal reticle. That's really all it is. It's nothing special. But when we come over here to the post-process, what you could do is you could make your own post-process to have your own color hue as you like. So if we search for material, or sorry, not in the post-process, but in the scene capture component, we can come down here, we can see the white hot is set for this thermal. So let's go to, we have the white hot and the rainbow. So here's where you would choose your own settings essentially. So you have the max range at which you want the thermal to be applied. Beyond this range, you get essentially just your normal sky color. Then you have your noise multiplier, so kind of the hazing effect, so to speak, and the shimmering kind of gets applied. So these all kind of tweak that effect. So it kind of adds some, I guess you would call it noise and distortion. So then you have your hot colors. So cold gen cold, that's basically the cold objects at the cold point of the normal, and then the hot point of the normal for those cold objects. Then the hot gens, those are going to be for like the characters. So as you could remember seeing, those had a glow effect to them. So that's what these are going to tinker with. So basically you can go through and make your own color palette. So all you would do is just duplicate it, and I'll just name this one example. And it's really easy to actually test this to see what it looks like. So you click your post-process volume, search for material, go to post-process, add an element, choose asset reference, and then drag your post-process onto it. And there's kind of a rough idea of the result, just with less shimmering. Now we can tweak it and see the result on the fly. So I want to change this up. I'll just start giving it some random colors, give it something interesting. Get a yellowish hue, and then the others will just kind of make it, I don't know, just do yellow and pink, something like that. Cool. And I'll revert that back to normal. And I will make this use the example. So now, whenever I use that one, I think it was this guy. You can see there's the new result. So this is the new result. You got the pink and purple, or the purplish pink red overlay for everything, the hot, or sorry, for the cold. And then you have your heat source. So that kind of has the bluish yellow kind of outline going for him with a slight bit of shimmering. So that's kind of how you would set that up and make your own materials that way. I'm going to revert this back to the white hot because that is the default, and delete this guy. All right, so let's go back to the settings real quick. Settings, again, they're the same as normal. The only difference is the default scope refresh rate is set to 15 frames a second. So that way it gives that kind of laggy effect to it, which depending on the game, like Tarkov does it, but Tarkov does it excessively for balancing purposes. So it is not actually that bad in real life. However, just to keep the game balanced, like they said, it's just to, well, they did that to keep the game balanced. So that's not super overpowered, even though it kind of is, but they compensate by making it rare and expensive. So if I wanted to bump this up to 60, we could then have a smooth thermal sight. Like so, and I'll start aiming. As you can see, it is buttery smooth. There's no distortion, no nothing like caused by the lag. It just looks good. So that's where I go through and I'll just revert it right back. And everything else is all the same. Set as a sight, it's aimable, and all that fun stuff. And I've already showed you how to set that up. And yeah, that pretty much covers how you would set up thermals. So let's see. What else is there to talk about? It covers up pretty much all of the parts. I haven't done a direct video on this, but I showed an example that's done essentially all the same. It's just a flip mount with a magnifier on it. Let's see, asset wise, do we have anything in here? I already went through the particle effects. Nothing really fancy in terms of the reticles. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Just haven't gone into full detail about the firearms yet. So I guess I could cover some of that. Let me think for a second. All right, yeah, I think I'm going to do just a quick video on to kind of give a result on how the ergonomics affects aim down sight speed, cycling speed, as well as the weight and recoil and all that kind of stuff. So I'll go ahead and show that off in the next video. But for now, that pretty much sums up the system, kind of all the parts, how you set them up, tinker around with them, get the settings tuned to how you want. And yeah, so I'll see you in the next video.